So today I've got the brand new DC-A1 monitor. Now this is a 7-inch monitor by Viltrox, but I want to put it up against my current DC-X3 or the DC-X series. So I've got the DC-X3, but also the DC-X2. Now the DC-A1 is pretty much like the DC-X2. It's just HDMI in, HDMI out, but it's a 7-inch monitor, so it is a little bit bigger, which I actually prefer 7-inch monitors, specifically if I am using it with my larger cinema cameras like the F5 or the FX6, but it does have this big dial on the side. It's got a couple of other different features than the X series has, but let's get into it. So the DC-A1 is a 7-inch touchscreen by Viltrox. This kit has a travel case, it's got an MPF battery, a monitor mount, a full-size HDMI, a mini size to a full-size HDMI, a USB-A to a USB-C cord, a removable sun hood, all for a price of $278 USD, depending on the kit that you get. Now, one of the key features that I actually like about the DC-A1 happens to be this side dial. Now, I wasn't 100% sure about it at the start, but when you start using it in the field, it gets a lot easier than sometimes touching the screen. Now, touchscreen is perfectly fine. It really is nice and responsive, but utilizing this on the side is actually quite handy because you've got the wheel, but then you can also click into the wheel to select it or, go back. Now, also the second best feature that I actually like is the on-off. It's a switch. Now, usually what happens is you have an on-off button that you actually have to hold for about 2 to 3 seconds, and sometimes that actually gets a little bit annoying. After a while, you're constantly turning it off and on. Having that switch, it's literally just to flick it on, flick it off. It's so much easier, like you have no idea. One of the monitors that I absolutely hate is the Atomos Ninja 5 that you actually have to hold that button. Literally feels like forever. It's like 3 to 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds that you have to turn it on and off, because if you don't hold it long enough, it's kind of like a screen lock mode. So you actually have to hold on to it for long enough to turn it on and off. It's a very slow monitor. I really don't like it, but having this on and off switch is so much more easier than the physical button itself. Now, just like the DC-X series, we do have 3 different power options. So you've got the DC power in, you've also got the USB-C power in, but then obviously you have your Sony MPF batteries on the back as well, which, if you do get the kit that comes with the Viltrox MPF battery, perfectly fine, utilize that. The good thing about that, if you do get the kit that has the MPF battery, is that you can charge it through USB-C as well, which obviously is incredible because you don't want to carry around, those MPF battery chargers all the time. Just put a USB-C cable directly in, perfectly easy. Now, the same thing as the DC-X series is that you actually have a USB-A on the top that you plug directly, in there like a USB stick. Now, it does actually have the preloaded LUTs directly in here, but if you want to put your own customized LUT, you do have to load that in, which we'll also discuss later on when we go into the user interface. Now, one of the major design differences between the DC-X series and the DC-A1 is that the DC-A1 is more of a plastic design. The DC-X series feels a little bit heavier, but it's more of a metal design, which I don't know if is a pro or con, but metal obviously does feel a lot more premium than the DC-A1. Now, it does actually have identical mounting options. It's got the quarter 20 mounts on the bottom and the quarter 20 mounts on the right-hand side. Now, both of those quarter 20 mounts have RE locating pins, so it won't swivel around, which obviously is great. And in terms of the customizable buttons, they both have 4 function buttons at the top that you can actually go through. But like I said, this DC-A1 has that dial on the side, which is clickable, and you can click into it. Then you actually have a return button at the top, whereas the DC-X3 and DC-X2 only have those function buttons and the return button at the top as well. Now, one of the key differences between the DC-X2 and 3 versus the DC-A1 happens to be that screen brightness. So 2800 nits in the DC-A1, which is incredibly bright, and we'll have a look at the differences between these two when it comes to outdoor scenarios. And you can see there's a pretty significant difference between the 3. The A7 IV screen obviously is very similar to the Viltrox DC-X2, whereas the DC-A1 is incredibly bright, seems like it has really good depth in the image, and obviously if you use the sun hood, it'll be tons better. Now also to make it easier, if you are outdoors, it's great that it does include this sun hood. So you can actually put this plastic sun hood on, and this will actually help with a lot of the glaring and just allow you to see outdoors a lot easier. But obviously if you are shooting indoors and you don't want to use this sun hood, obviously take it off, but it does snap on and off really quick and easy. But I do have to mention, if you do end up leaving this on, it does act as a screen protector if you do end up traveling. So anyway, let's go into the user interface of the DC-A1. So let's go through the interface of the Viltrox DC-A1. Now this is connected to my FX6, so I do actually have some waveforms and all this other display. You may not want to see this if you have just a basic, mirrorless camera. Really depends on the manufacturer and the camera you're actually utilizing. So let's double tap the screen, go over to the left hand side, and first of all, we've got the volume bar. The volume bar is displayed on the right hand side. Pretty nice to have because you do have headphone monitoring right here. Histograms, you've got the Y histogram here. I'm not a fan of using that, neither with the RGB as well. I don't use that. I actually use just the waveforms instead. Now we do have the vector scope on the right hand side here. You can see the red skin tone line. So if you do want to try and check your skin tones, I usually do that in post-production, but it's nice to have anyway. RGB parade, so this is the one I generally use. RGB is over this side. You do have the Y over this side, and the YUV. So it depends on which one you prefer. Y is perfectly fine for me for most situations. Very similar to my normal waveforms, but we'll turn that one off. And full waveforms, now this one is the whole screen. You can see here it does make the screen a little bit smaller. That's probably more like a 4.5 inch sort of size. Not 100% fan of that. It's just a little bit too small for my liking. Now in terms of the 3D LUT, you can actually load in your LUTs as well, but it does have S-Log 3, S-Log 2 in there that you can choose here that I've actually got it selected. Now the next one, we do have your peaking, focus peaking. So level 6, it's on right now. You can see how that affects the image. You just have to find the best focus peaking for your camera. You can see here, we'll focus on that boom pole there. And yep, seems to be fine. So you can choose obviously different colors as well. If it gets a little bit distracting, red's probably too much for some people. Let's go green. Okay, so next we'll go over to here. Now this is false color. You've got false color mode 1 and mode 2. Really depends on which one you want to use, but false color is great for checking exposure. Your pinks and greens are kind of like your skin tone colors, and the yellows and reds are almost blown out highlights. You can see the legend at the top. Over here, right hand side is red, blown out highlights. Pink and blue or purple, they're really dark blacks. You can see here, there's pretty much no details. So false color is a great exposure tool to use. Now another good exposure tool is zebras. So utilizing zebras right here, Sony skin tones around about 42% IRE. So in most log formats are about 40 to 45%, so you can just put it on 42 and you can see where the skin tones sort of lie. So it really depends on your exposure tool that you want to choose. Now you can choose the gray screen, red, green, or blue. So this can actually be really good at nighttime when it comes to actually getting the focus. You can see there, I can see the focus point a little bit better because there's no colors to sort of saturate the image and get you a little bit confused. We'll focus on this little amaranth light there. You can see there, it's just easier to dial in that focal point, which is quite nice to have. I've actually used that before in other monitor systems. Now underscan, overscan, you do actually have flip the image horizontal if you're placing the monitor upside down, and then you can actually rotate the screen as well. But so this one right here, if you flip the screen upside down, it will automatically rotate to an upside down view. But I like to lock that just in case I actually put the screen upside down and I don't want it to flip. But it really depends on how you actually want to use that. Now this one is all your displays. So this is the color of the marker, the thickness, and the transparency. So let's go 85%. You can see nice red I've chosen, nice thick as well. Thin is usually quite nice, and the transparency, it has the transparency on the outside. So if you want high, it darkens the whole image and it pretty much gets you to focus on that one specific area. Not a fan of that. So we'll turn that one off. 85, whole bunch of different percentages there. Now we do have the rule of thirds, which is over here, or your trisection, and your center marker. Always nice to have, but it really depends on your shooting style once again.
Now, this is your aspect ratios that you can sort of put on the screen. I like to have this one right here. This is your 9:16 social media aspect ratio. I know, but it needs to be done nice and thick just so I can see exactly where my markers are. If you're just shooting for social media, this is actually where it comes in handy, this thing right here. So just darkening the sides of the screen, so this is actually on display. Quite nice, to be honest, but I wouldn't do this because then you don't see anything at all. A low one is quite nice, but I'll turn that one off just for now. Now we do have oh, here we go, changing the aspect ratio. I don't really do that. I'll just keep it on auto. This one is the zoom, 1.2, 4, 8 and 10. Whoa, that is a hectic zoom. 10 times zoom. Is it sharp? Probably not, because of the resolution on the screen. Yeah, 10's not really usable. Whoops, I just changed the exposure there. And usually 2 or 4 times is just enough. Yeah, there we go. So 4 times is probably where you'll do critical focus, even 2 times. So this is generally used just for critical focus, just to try and zoom in to see what your focus is if you're using manual lenses. Now, anamorphic D-squeeze, 1.3, 3, 1.5, 6, 8, and 2 times anamorphic. The great thing about this is that it's a relatively large screen, 7-inch screen, so it's not going to be cropping in on the image. You can see just enough. Some of these screens are a 5-inch, and then you've got this 2 times anamorphic. It's way too small to utilize, so I love having a 7-inch. That's why I always use 7-inch with my FX6. So this screen, this monitor is probably going to be used quite a lot. Now you can adjust the brightness of your actual image itself. Generally I just keep everything at about 50%. Depends on the camera you're using. I don't like to manipulate the image too much with this one because I just want to see the image that's actually coming out of the camera. But the backlight's important here, so this is to change the brightness of the screen if you're using it outside. But if you do use it outside as well, you do actually have, you know, your screen hood here that you can chuck on the front just to block out a lot of the glare. But let's put this back to 0 because I want you guys to be able to see the screen. If it's too bright, you guys wouldn't be able to see the screen. Now the next one is just your language fan speed, so you can leave it on auto. It's relatively loud. Auto sounds like medium, and this is high. Back to medium, and back to low. I'll just keep it on auto just in case. Now the volume, you do have a headphone jack here, so the volume will actually come out of here, and this is how you adjust the volume. I generally don't use that. I'll attach the headphone jack to the camera instead. Now the on-screen display, this is just the transparency. You can see here, really depends on which one you prefer. Transparent is perfectly fine, but I like to have it completely off so I can see the monitor. Now the F key, so you have 4 buttons up here that you can customize these buttons. I've got D-squeeze as number 1. You can see there I've selected it, false color, focus peaking, and I can actually just lock the screen as well, so there's no touch screen. I'm not sort of touching any features. That's nice to have. Now the system, you've got reset, product manual, and the update. Now you have to update that through the USB-C right here if there are any firmware updates. But overall, a nice sort of display layout. I kind of like it. It's very simple, very basic, and it does exactly what I need. So well done to Viltrox with this one. But also I do have to mention, you can go through the settings with this side wheel. This is one thing that I haven't seen before in the previous monitors that I've got. It's quite nice. It's easy to sort of maneuver. You've got the back button right there just to go through. But yeah, if you have thick gloves and you can't touch, just using this is nice and easy. So well done Viltrox with the DC-A1.
Now look, overall the DC-A1 is a fantastic monitor. I like the dial on the side. I obviously like the amount of powering options that you have, especially with the USB-C. You know, being a 7-inch monitor is definitely my favorite size. I like the bigger monitors on my larger cinema cameras, works perfectly fine for me, but it really depends on what you guys like. At least Viltrox have, you know, your 5-inch monitors, your 6 and 7-inch monitors now, which is great. It's plenty of options for us to utilize. So obviously I will put a link in the description below for the DC-A1, but I'll obviously put a link in the description below for the DC-X3 and X2 monitors as well if you want to check those ones out. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.